Hi, good evening. My name is James Fisher, and I'm a part of the MLK event here in Denver, Colorado. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm working on well this evening.
Good. So, can you tell me a little bit about the MLK Colorado Holiday Commission and what it does?
Well, our holiday commission, what we try to do is encourage and inspire the community each and every year with new ideas, new activities to make them aware of the African American history, their significance in the community, and what we can strive to do to make things better for one and all, not only ourselves, but everyone that lives amongst us in our communities.
Can you speak to how you got started volunteering with the organization?
I met Vern Howard, but a part of my volunteer work goes back to Minneapolis. I started off with a man by the name of Kevin Jenkins from the Oak Park Community Center. And from that point on, when I moved back to Colorado from Minnesota, I got involved with Mr. Howard, and our love for history, our love for our community and our culture is what kind of bonded us, and we've been together as friends for almost 21 years, but I've been on the committee for about maybe 15.
15 years, that's a really long time. So, it's a volunteer-based organization.
Yes, ma'am.
What keeps you coming back?
Looking at the news every day.
Yeah.
I'm not so much subtle as some of the folks in the committee. I'm more realization about who we are in our own communities. We've passed some of these laws, we've created some of these buildings and structures, and even established a lot of the laws that are living to this very day, but we have no recognition in it. And I feel it's within my heart to turn around and make sure that all cultures are created and treated equally, and not just on a slide basis where it's convenient and comfortable for the masses. Everybody's included in on this. I believe that's why the Most High put us down here on the earth, to fulfill some type of mission, and mine is to raise cultural awareness and gentleness throughout our community, and some kind of unity and happiness, so we're not always at odds with each other every day of the week.
So we're coming up on MLK's Jr.'s 50th anniversary of his assassination. And what do you believe how do we go ahead and still take the lessons from the life that he lived and move forward?
First of all, we have to stop being apathetic towards each other. Part of our cultural makeup is to separate, divide, and conquer, and whoever shouts the loudest or whoever comes in with more money or more education, they try to deem them the leader. I don't see it that way. It's 50 years after Dr. King's assassination, and in a lot of ways, a lot of things have not changed. Not our leadership, not our communities. Our values may have improved over the years, but that's because we're trying to raise our children and show our children that things aren't as bad as they was yesterday, but today exists for us to move forward. To me, that's a fallacy. There's a true statement. What's the difference between free and freedom? My culture, my age group fought for the freedom to even sit here in this restaurant, in this auditorium area, to turn around, to even hold this interview in public. It's also the public's realization that we're not going anywhere. We're a part of the makeup of the United States, and I just can't see for the life of me how everybody else is involved in the culture except for us. That's a slap in the face, because we stood right here next to each and every one of them to build this country, to establish the laws, and to establish the moral fiber of what we live in. So don't come to me with this idiocy about you're greater or better than us. There's no man on this earth greater than the Most High. So to me, that's where we need to buckle down and get the realization that we all live here, and as long as we're alive, we're going to have to exist in some kind of fashion, shape, form, or manner. Because when you lie to your children about that person and they find out something different, it ain't so much that society lied to them, it's their parents that lied to them. So stop lying to your children. Stop lying to the community. Stop lying in church, and stop lying, period. That's all it is. Stop being apathetic towards the next person. Those people's culture has a whole idea of what America is. They'll tell you to stop and speak English. But if you look in the dictionary, the English language is derived of 4 different languages: Latin, Portuguese, French, African, Greek. So how are you going to tell somebody to speak the English language when it's already written there in front of you? If you can't stand the older text and get an education. Because that's what it's going to take in order for us to live in this existence together without us trying to tear each other's heads off because somebody thinks that they are more powerful than the next person. When the Most High comes, none of that's going to count because all of us are going to be under His direction and not the direction of the fool that's running this country. I'm sorry.
That actually brings me to my next question, which I am really interested to hear your views on. So we're getting to the point where people under the age of 60 have very few or no personal memories of Dr. King, let alone people that worked with him personally. So as that age gap is going to continue and there's going to be more people who are, under the age of 60 who are not going to have more of a personal memory or personal almost relationship with Dr. King, how do we keep his legacy alive? Like, what do we need to teach in order to keep his memory alive? So, because Dr. Cornel West actually said that we are now getting into the age of where Dr. Martin Luther King is becoming almost a Santa Clausation, is what he called it. And so how do we keep that memory alive so it's not becoming a Santa Clausation, but we're actually learning from the lessons that he was trying to teach?
That's kind of funny because I said the same thing. I didn't want Dr. King's legacy or his memory or his hard work to be festered off like Christmas. We'll turn around and wear Dr. King's shirt, his emblem or his logo, but you really don't know what that man went through. You're more concerned about what can be Googled and lied about him, but not about what he did accomplish, what he did sell and prove to, for us to be free enough to argue on the internet with each other. We didn't have that 60 years ago. We couldn't walk out streets in public, check the black codes. More than 4 people standing under a light could not be there under the black codes. So I look at it this way. The only way that Dr. King's legacy is going to live on is just like every other culture. Keep it in your family. If you don't turn around, record it, recite it, and live it in realization, then his dream will never exist. He'll be another figure in the book. And we need to stop that. Our figures are just as strong as any other figure that walked this earth, that's in this culture, that's in this world today. The only way that we are going to keep our culture alive is to teach our children the truth. How we relate to other cultures is the way we understand ourselves. See, you can't understand somebody else until you understand yourself. You can't solve the conflict until you solve the conflict that's inside of you. Stop being afraid of them. If you have to go to court to fight for your rights, do so. I did it under House Bill 1311. Debtor's prison has ended in the state of Colorado and across the United States. So I am personally involved in this. My name is in the law books for putting my best foot forward, for putting my achievements and my efforts forward. If you don't like what you see in my committee, then you start a whole new committee. Start your own drive. But don't forget, at the end of the day, if the Most High doesn't come and get us, then the only enemy we have is the one we look at in the mirror every day. Don't hate yourself, and in that way you can't hate the world.
So the theme of this year's Marade is sacrifice for justice. What does that mean to you?
The sacrifice, whoa. It's 400 years or more of sacrifice. Lynchings, whippings, churches being burned, people being killed on the street just because they have a strong stand for their own culture. It's funny to me that in this time and age that we would have an individual that runs our culture or the United States the way he does. But no one from my culture has the moral fiber to turn around and stand up and say, you know what? I think I can handle this job. I think I can go through with it. Don't send substitute teams in here, in Colorado, where we have the largest event in the world, to come in here with your own set agenda. Sit down with the committee. We've been in existence for over 20 years. We have a proven track record by the numbers that we produce every year, by the people that come down and perform for us, by other states wanting to emulate our model of how we keep ourselves in the community, how we keep that idea alive, how we keep the dream going and moving, and how we hand it down to our children so they don't forget our entire culture and not the one that they have to pick out of the library, because you never know what's in the library. Their history or just us.
And so how can people in their own lives take that theme of sacrifice for justice? How do they incorporate that in their own lives?
Stop being afraid of your damn self. There's no other way to put it. Stop being afraid of yourself. And stop being afraid of that man out there. He may wear a robe, but all he has is an education. He might be called honor, but there's no honor but the Most High. If you've been disrespected, then be like your ancestors. Go through the Underground Railroad and figure out what's wrong. Be like a man who turned around and invented the split between the plasma and the whole blood, but he had to die because they didn't serve African Americans in the hospital, in which he'd proven this fact that you can separate these things. There's other people in history that has far more impact than just Dr. King. So start reading to your children or your grandbabies. Start having that idea pump up and come up to them. We might all be bad kids one day or another, but sooner or later you got to come correct or don't come at all. Because if you ain't up front with us trying to make sure that we as a culture exist just as freely as every other American, we'll take the 5/8 off and be a whole American just like the rest of y'all. Stop being afraid of yourself and the achievements that you can make only if you take one step forward.
So the Marade is a yearly tradition. What do you think keeps people coming back?
It depends. For me, it depends on the age group. Again, you asked a question earlier about the 60-year or 50-year difference. The older people that went out with Dr. King actually lived that pain, that heartache, that anguish. They come back to make sure that it's still strong. People between, I would say, the ages of 25 to about 35 are establishing their families, and they're trying to figure out, what can I do to make sure that our tradition keeps going, but how can I make my child stronger in society the way it looks right now? Again, stop lying to yourself. That way you don't have to lie to your family. And the newer children are probably the best, because see, we have a whole world to introduce them to. With the internet, don't use it for foolishness. I've used Facebook for the same reason. I ain't gonna lie to you. But at the same time, there's a world of history in there where you could show them that not only our culture prevailed, but there's other cultures that have prevailed, that have intermixed in with us to be all 33 in the third color, in which they turn around to measure us to see our intelligence, our strengths, our weaknesses, in the way they could attack us more. Take the figures off the table. The only figures I need to know is how many is going to stand in attendance when everything breaks out. Because if all you have to do is vote between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, pass the club at least one night to get your vote in, that will improve your community. That will help everything, the library stay open, school programs to stay in effect, your children to be able to get a warm, hot meal while they're gone for 8 hours out of the day to come home to less of their parents. Spend more time with your children. Correct the things in your grandchildren that can't be done with your children. Because the difference between free and freedom, we fought for free. Y'all had freedom handed to you. You don't always have to eat the sugar that's on the plate, because it'll make you fat and lazy and you won't be able to do nothing about it.
But how does the younger generation connect? You know, because our struggles for the younger generation we might see Black Lives Matter movements going on. We might see those type of movements, and we connect to that because that's in our day and time right now.
Right.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Talk to your kids. Be personable with your family. Be affectionate to your child. Affection ain't just a hug. It ain't just a kiss. It ain't a high five. Sometimes affection is turning the TV off. turning the light on and reading a book and go, oh yeah, I remember how this happened to me. When I was older, this is the way we were treated. You are not treated this way. Like I said, be honest with your children. Because once they walk out of your house and they represent everything that you give them, make sure you give them the right things. So that way you're not embarrassed when you find out that they didn't live up to your expectations. Not the community's, but your own expectations.
And so my final question for you is, what is a vision that the Colorado Holiday Commission for MLK, what is their vision going forward? What would they like to see?
Me personally, as a committee member, I can't speak for the entire staff. But I know equality is one of those things that we are really looking forward to. A lot of us have been volunteers for 10 years or plus, some 15 to 20 years. And all we're doing is to answer your question, is to reinforce the dream. To make sure my child knows the dream and what Dr. King went through. There's Gandhi. There's other people that have been out there that have done these things to help improve our community as a shared process. Share with your children. That process will turn around and prosper into something very, very beautiful. But you have to take the step as the adult to make sure that them babies know what's going on. Turn the game off. Turn the TV off. And light up a book and see what happens. Your kid might be a lot better than you think they are.